16 days to election 2024. Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of the Situation Room. Here on Situation Room, as you know, we talk politics. We'll give you an update on what's happening on the political scene, update on what the presidential candidates of the various political parties have been up to and their political parties as well. We'll also tell you what the Electoral Commission has also been up to. Just a while ago, the EC embarked on a very important exercise in respect of the December election. When I come back from the break, I'll tell you who I'm doing this show with and the topics we are discussing today.
We all have that one friend, always by your side for the big moments and ready to assist. He's always got his eyes on the prize and his heart in the right place. Where would we be without our BFFs? This season, enjoy all 380 Premier League games with your BFF GoTV. Upgrade or reconnect to GoTV Super Plus for the discounted price of just 265 cedis today. GoTV, love it.
You're welcome back. My name is Sammi Wiafe and this is the Situation Room, coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. On Situation Room, we talk politics as I mentioned earlier. And we're just 16 days to the December elections. We'll tell you what the political parties has been up to, their presidential candidates, as well as the Electoral Commission of the Republic. Just a while ago, the Commission embarked on an important exercise. Some ballot papers were supposed to be used for the election in some two regions were destroyed by the Electoral Commission. They identified some errors in respect of the serial numbers of these particular ballot boxes. My colleague Fred Djabanor, who is joining me today, or as always has been doing this show with me, will take us through what this process was, and also we talk about the issue of infrastructure politics. If you're in this country, you've seen a series of infrastructure commissioning or inaugurations by President Akufo-Addo and the NPP administration. In 2016, if you remember very well, there were a series of also inauguration and commissioning by then President John Dramani Mahama. This afternoon situation, we find out, do these commissionings and inaugurations influence voters in any way? We'll have that discussion on the show today. And also we talk about elections and security. Just this week, the two main political parties, the NPP and the NDC, have been trading accusations. It started on Tuesday when the NDC National Communications Officer, Sammi addressed a news conference here in Accra where he says that there's a top security couple or a big man in the Ghana Armed Forces aiding with the NPP to rig the elections in the Ashanti region. Just yesterday, or 24 hours after this particular press conference, the NPP also addressed a news conference led by its national organizer, Henry Nana Boakye, which also accused a former security couple, COP retired Kofi Boakye, that he and the NDC are also planning to rig the elections in the Ashanti region. The Ashanti region has become very hot in this election. Last week, Fred and I had a discussion on happenings within the Ashanti region, why the two political parties are holding the Ashanti region like egg and ensuring that they get more votes from that particular region. It comes on about these accusations and counter-accusations. We'll have a discussion on this, and a former security analyst, a former security person who is also a security analyst, Colonel retired Festus Abuaje, will join us to discuss issues of election security as we prepare for the election. As you're aware, the IGP also held a meeting with representatives of political parties just this afternoon and said that indeed they will apply the law. Where there's a need to apply force, they will apply force and ensure that this election is peaceful. So that's the main issues we are discussing today on the Situation Room. My name is Sammi Wiafe and I'm doing this with my friend, colleague and brother, Fred Djabanor. Fred, what's up?
Sammi, Ade.
This week has been interesting, if you ask me.
Yes, quite interesting. I mean, as I always say, every day to the election, every day which passes by, you realize that the political atmosphere gets more interesting, it gets more hectic. A lot of activities would take place.
Yeah.
You've, in the last 2 or 3 minutes, said so many things which are taking place in the course of the week. So yes, I mean, it's been a hectic week. The week hasn't ended. We have one more day to go to end the week. But I mean, there's so many activities from the political scene. Just
before we came on air, the Electoral Commission embarked on a very important exercise, if you ask me. They got rid of some ballot papers meant for, I think, voter
and a half
a region, which the commission says had issues in respect of their CUR numbers.
Exactly.
What was the problem?
So these are printed ballot papers which were meant for election December 7th.
So presidential ballot.
Presidential ballot. Okay. So somewhere last week, the EC recalled these papers. According to the EC, they had some concerns and some issues with the electoral papers. And they realized that if they went ahead with this particular election using these ballot papers, would cause a lot of issues. So what the Electoral Commission decided to do was to recall these ballot papers and print new ones. Today, what the Electoral Commission did was that it got all the representatives of the political parties and presidential candidates who are partaking in this election to come around, brought the papers, and is currently burning the papers, is destroying the papers. The Electoral Commission is doing this for transparency's sake. I mean, we've been living in this country where there have been so many doubts and concerns raised about the electoral process. And in deepening transparency, the Electoral Commission has decided to open it up to everybody, every political party, every representative of a presidential candidate in this election, into the media. So a while back, we were live on TV where we saw these ballot papers being brought to be bent. As we
in the presence of the political party.
Yes, as we speak now, that process is ongoing. And all these papers are expected to be bent totally, so that there will be no trace of them in the December polls. So let's talk about Menfi. This week too, something significant happened in the Menfi Central Constituency. Yes.
Just 2 weeks ago, the lawsuit against the NDC parliamentary candidate got the Secondary High Court to more or less throw it away, for want of a better word. And just yesterday or 2 days ago, the current member of parliament who had decided to go independent also announced his withdrawal from the race.
The Menfi Central constituency has been a very
interesting
constituency. Different happenings within the constituency, as you have outlined them. There's the NDC MP who had an injunction. The NDC member of parliamentary candidate who had an injunction placed on him. There's the MP who was being removed from parliament. Then there's a court, there's an EC who decides that you are not going to disqualify the candidate. Then you come to the resolution of the matter. The NDC candidate is reinstated. Now the MP says, I'm not contesting as an independent again. Peter Aka. Kwachi Aka says he's not going as an independent again. So he's withdrawn from the parliamentary election and he's throwing his support behind the NDC parliamentary candidate, Kojo. The NDC has welcomed this decision. They are saying that it's some good omen for them. They are expecting to win that parliamentary seat. We'll wait to see what December 7 brings. Already, the party has had some cracks. Whether they can be able to unite all these cracks and fix these cracks before the 7th of December is something we wait to see. The voters will decide on the 7th of December. But yes, now the NDC seem to be going in one direction with their candidates and the independent candidate who has withdrawn from the race. So yes, quite interesting.
Fred, in a short while, we'll be discussing the issue of infrastructure and how they play a role as far as influencing voters in this country is concerned, because we've seen a number of commissioners and inaugurations in the last week, and we are told that it will continue till election. But the Electoral Commission also finally released their figures for the election.
Exactly. Last week or 2 weeks ago, they announced the final numbers for the election. We are told we have over 18.7 million people who would be eligible to vote, during the elections. And out of this, we've been going through the numbers. Bernard, Vivian, Sanda, in the past 3 days, have been mentioning and going through the numbers and how these numbers are likely to affect the elections. We are told that the top 20 constituencies in the country. We've seen them on our screens. Top 20 constituencies in the country. Out of the top 20 constituencies, 12 of them are from the Greater Accra region. The others are from the other, scattered across the country. There's one from the Ashanti, there's one from the Central, there are about 2 from the Western region. But Sammi, when you look at these constituencies, and you want to really look at the people who live there and the kind of developments which have taken place in this constituency, you realize that a lot of these constituencies are growing areas where people are now moving into. So they are not fully developed, they are still developing. You look, for example, at Amasaman. Amasaman is growing in numbers because now you are seeing a lot of migration into Amasaman. Yeah. So many people moving into Amasaman. Dome Kwabinya, which is the biggest constituency in the country. You look towards the Hacho, Agbogba, Abokobi areas. You see they are developing areas. Go to Adenta, go into part of Oyarefa, going into Oyibi, towards the Oyibi road. All those places are Adenta. They are new development. So the question is, this new development, what are the people looking out for? What are the constituents looking out for? That's where you come into the issue of infrastructure. These people are looking for roads. A lot of them complain about bad roads. A lot of them are complaining about water, power. A lot of them are complaining about even school buildings, electricity, and all those things. How are these going to affect their voting in December, on the 7th of December? These are some of the discussions which constituents and electorates are having in the ahead of the 2024 elections. And you see, interestingly, our political parties have not sat back. The 2 major political parties have decided that they are going to make infrastructure a big discussion in this particular election. And you see, the interesting part of this is how the 2 political parties, whilst they are in power, few weeks to an election, how commissions in 2016, some few days to the election, some few weeks to the election. You saw what John Dramani Mahama did. He went to inaugurate
the Cape Coast Stadium in May 2016.
Exactly.
The University of Ghana Medical Center.
He went into
head office
the
of
Red
National
Hospital.
Communications. Quite a number of them before the elections.
And the biggest one was the Circle Dubai.
Circle Dubai.
The Circle
Dubai and Terminal 3.
Terminal 3.
Yeah, Kojo International Airport.
All these things were geared towards the election and very close to the election. In 2020, we saw similar things. What is happening now in 2024? The NPP once again, they are gone inaugurating the Flower Pot interchange. Tomorrow, they are going to inaugurate the Apakadan stretch of the railway development area. We are told of Agenda 111. Today, there was the inauguration of 80 new educational infrastructure across the country. I mean, infrastructure has become a big topic in our politics. The
more reason why is going to be our main discussion for today. Do this infrastructure influence voters in any way?
Sammi,
that's the question we are asking.
The question really influenced me as an electorate who lives in an area which is development. For example, yesterday I was driving where I usually use the Flower Pot area. It takes you about 2 hours to cross. I mean, yesterday,
it was a smooth ride.
I was so happy. It's just like the Circle Dubai when it was inaugurated in 2016.
Let's get some understanding of this infrastructure and which roles they play when it comes to election. Let's speak to Kojo Oppong. Kojo Oppong is Minister for Works and Housing. He's the Vice Chair of the NPP Manifesto Committee, and in the capacity to speak on these particular issues, we are discussing. Kojo, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Sammi, and to your colleagues and your viewers as well. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Kojo, few days or few weeks to election, we've seen a number of, commissionings and inaugurations. Many people have asked the timing. Why is government waiting some few weeks to election before inaugurating these projects or commissioning this project? Is it for vote buying?
I think first we should ask ourselves whether or not it is a fact that these projects have been completed and have been sitting and waiting for this time for inauguration for the purposes of election, or commissioning for the purposes of election. And if we ask that question and examine those facts, we'll realize that that is not the case. In fact, for many of these projects, they are now reaching a completion point. Governments are elected for 4 years. They will spend about the first year trying to put ministers in place and a government in place. It's in your second year that you really have got budgets that you are using to administer programs. So even if you start projects in your second year, some of these projects will take this while, especially for the heavy infrastructure projects. It will take this while before you get to completion. So I don't think it is a fact that these projects have been finished and are waiting, and it's been delayed towards elections. No, the reality is that many of these projects are now being completed. In fact, if you look at what's happened at the flower pot overhead area, you will notice that in the run-up to the inauguration, they were working day and night to be able to complete it because it had not been completed. So I think that fact can be dealt with. But, following the conversation, the impact of these commissionings on the election is a little different from the question of the impact of delivering infrastructure on people's voting decisions. And I think we can treat both and see if we can arrive at a point. Now, if you look at the issues, if you poll the issues that are informing people's decision in this election, you will find that across the country, one of the constituency-specific issues that pops up always at the top is infrastructure. So it's understandable that people are demanding a lot of infrastructure, despite a lot of work that has empirically been done on infrastructure. There's always a demand for some more infrastructure. So it stands to reason that both the ruling party and the opposition party will make infrastructure a major conversation point. And for the ruling party, they will have to demonstrate that they have lived up to the infrastructure question or promise, and for the opposition, they will try to make the case that you haven't lived up to it, and so people should vote you out. And therefore, for the ruling party, if there are infrastructure projects that are being completed around this time, it stands to reason that as part of the various efforts to send a message to the public that you have delivered, you are delivering, and you will deliver if you are giving another opportunity. If there are projects that are ready for completion and commissioning, you would obviously do so. But I don't think anybody should live under the impression that commissioning of projects, and here I'm answering that final specific question, that commissioning of projects alone in the weeks leading up to the election will do any magic. It just forms part of a plethora of activities that you will embark upon in a bid to send a message to the public that this particular political tradition has delivered, is delivering, and will deliver on the most important thing to you.
All right, Kojo, there are others who have also, made this argument that in 2016, when John Mahama was president, there were a series of these inaugurations and commissioners, but yet it didn't materialize the votes. The NDC and John Mahama lost in that election, and so is the NPP now also, working on the same path? May suffer a similar fate if care is not taken with this speed in inauguration.
Well, but that's why I've tried to differentiate between commissionings and delivering infrastructure generally. Now, these commissionings form part of a general set of activities aimed at convincing the public that you have delivered or you are delivering and you will deliver on infrastructure. And what I'm saying to you is that if over the 4-year period you haven't delivered much on infrastructure, and you wait till the tail end to try and commission 4 or 5 projects with a view of convincing the public will not be fooled by it. If over the 4-year period you have delivered on infrastructure, and we have put out the data on the about 12,000 kilometers of roads that we have done since 2017.
But on roads, the NDC has challenged that particular assertion. I've heard John Mahama challenging Asenso Boachi on that particular thing. Challenging the president.
That's fine.
On that
that's fine. I've also heard John Mahama saying that he started free SHS. So it's not about what John Mahama says. You, for example, as an independent media house, can pick the data of the 12,000 kilometers of roads that we have put out that we have delivered in this 7.5-year period, and you can verify and tell your audience, so that it's not a debate between, let's say, myself and John Mahama, because John Mahama says a lot of things that over the period you'll find out is not exactly the case. But I don't want to make this conversation partisan. I'm saying that we have put out data on the 12,000 kilometers of roads over the period, commissioned various road projects. In my constituency, for example, we've done about 8 or 9 major roads, some of which did not even exist. We've done them, we've tagged them. If we've delivered this over the period, and 3 weeks to the election, we commission one more project, the public knows that these guys have been delivering, and this is just part of a bigger exercise of delivering. If we haven't done anything at all, and in the last minute we come and we try to commission 1 or 2 or 3 projects, then the public will not be fooled by it. So I'm saying to you that the commissionings are just part of a bigger track record. If your track record on infrastructure speaks well for you, then the commissionings will just help to be the icing on the cake. If your track record on infrastructure does not speak well for you, then it will be an exercise in futility. And we believe that if you look at, I mean, today you are seeing some of the new universities that, photos, videos are popping up. Today, for example, about the 80 new schools that are being commissioned are not the only schools that we have done since 2017. In fact, again, in my own constituency, you see work that has been done on dormitory blocks, science blocks, etc. So the people have seen what has been done over the years, and now they are seeing what is going on in the final stretch. So the answer is not about what you do in the last 2-3 weeks. It's about what you have done over the period that the public will assess and make a determination.
Yes, Kojo, let's move away from the inauguration and commissioning. We have about 3 weeks to an election. Your party and your candidate has been crisscrossing the country, engaging voters and electorate on what he promises to do. And infrastructure is one of the things which has come out clearly in his promises. We've seen your manifesto and how much you've put on infrastructure. Can you tell us, in the coming 4 years, what is an NPP government, if elected into government, going to do in terms of infrastructure outside what you have already done?
So every district has its infrastructure needs. And then you have infrastructure needs that cut across districts. The challenge really is not the engineering. The challenge is the financing. I mean, the science, the construction, civil engineering, quantity surveying, there's enough of it in the system that can do our roads, build our markets, build our schools, build our hospitals. That's not the problem. The problem is how to pay for it. Now, what governments have suffered over the years, and here I will speak for the NPP and the NDC and all other parties, is that you make the commitment and then you need the financing to pay for it so that the contractors can be on the project and finish these projects in good time. The challenge has been in getting financing for it. And that is why very often you will find that for the projects that move the fastest, they are financed by loans. Because those are, EPC projects, they are ring-fenced, they can make the money available, and the contractor just keeps going to the very end. Sometimes when they have a few challenges in project management, then these projects stall. The majority of the projects that don't get delivered in terms of infrastructure is because these projects are often financed from the normal tax basket. And so you are waiting month on month for tax revenue to come in so that you can be servicing the needs of your contractors. So what you're looking for is a leader who has a different model of financing, because the old model of financing that we've worked with since 1957 has created major challenges in project delivery for both the NPP and the NDC. Now, for us in the NPP, our model is to go heavily PPP, and is to bring in the private sector and make a lot of infrastructure projects available to the private sector to deliver on concession basis, and then spread out the payment on the national expenditure tables over a medium term. Now, what that does is that it allows us to get more projects upfront without financing challenges, because it's not government that is pre-financing them or underwriting the front-loaded finance. So you get the project upfront quicker, and then government pays over a period. Now, in government paying over a period, what you've also done is that you are freeing up the pressure on the fiscals, the pressure on the national expenditure tables. And so if you look into our manifesto, when we did our modeling, we said we can take away about 3% of GDP of expenditure. So we can cut about 3% of GDP of expenditure on our expenditure tables and hand it over to the private sector as concessions to do. There are major road projects that you can give to the private sector to design, finance, execute, and toll and collect their money back. Without doing it, or instead of doing it in the old model where the government will try to raise the money, give a contract, struggling to pay the contractors over a period. So the major thing we're going to be doing in the area of infrastructure is not reinventing the civil engineering and the quantity surveying aspect of it, but it's re-engineering the financing. And by cutting away 3% of GDP from our national expenditure and giving it to the private sector as opportunities, we're of the view that they can then deliver these properties or these projects, and then what government will do under these concession arrangements is to pay for them over a period, either from the national treasury or they take their money in a regulated manner from the general market. Now, this is not a new idea. There are countries in which this has been done. As part of our manifesto work, we had the opportunity to visit and see some of these things. You take Kenya, for example. They built a new highway from Jomo Kenyatta International Airport into the heart of Nairobi. And it was financed through PPP. And today, when you go there, they take their money from users of that, which is literally above the main road. And it's faster. It takes you just about 15 minutes to get into the heart of Nairobi itself. Go to the US. They've got the easy pass roads that are built with PPP financing and models. So you're able to deliver more projects at less front-loaded cost to the republic, and you're able to pay for it over a period. Either the treasury is paying or the public is paying. You tidy up your books and you deliver more projects. And in so doing, we'll be able to deliver a lot more projects in the various districts of this country on a consistent basis without having to truncate it. Number two, we also learned a lesson.
Number two, and wrapping up for me, for because we're racing against time. So if you get 1.2 for me.
Yeah. We also learned a lesson from our $1 million per constituency initiative in the last 7 years. And what we decided to do is therefore to have a district budgeting component within the national budget, so that districts will also get some direct allocation into these districts for purposes of speeding up infrastructure projects that have to be done by central government.
Kojo, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. Kojo Oppong Nkrumah is the Vice Chair of the NPP Manifesto Committee and also the Minister for Works and Housing. We'll speak to Mr. Richard Anamo. He's the former Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority and also speaks for the NDC in terms of infrastructure. But before we do that, we'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll speak to Richard.
This election season, Channel 1 TV is bringing you closer to every vote, every constituency, and every result. Our team will provide in-depth, data-driven analysis to show you what each vote means for our nation.
From the campaign trail to voting day and the final declaration of results, Channel 1 Television is covering it all. We'll be on the ground in all 276 constituencies, so every voice is heard and every community represented.
Our comprehensive election coverage brings you every key moment and every voice,
with updates from all stakeholders nationwide. This is election news you can trust, powered by the latest data and expert analysis.
Join us on Channel 1 TV for election coverage that keeps you informed and engaged.
We're here for every step of the journey.
Channel 1 TV, your election bureau.
Your health is in your hands, but at some point, it passes on to us. At Mintuba Hospital and Coloproctology Center, we believe that quality healthcare isn't a privilege, it's a right. Equipped with cutting-edge technology, we are fully prepared to effectively deal with all colorectal and proctological conditions. Our team of highly skilled doctors, surgeons, and nurses are renowned for their expertise in minimally invasive and painless laser, ligature, and lungoproctological surgery. We are committed to providing a wide range of services to meet the diverse needs of our patients. Mintuba Hospital, your health is our priority. Visit Mintuba Hospital today or call us at 0244 581 541 or 0271 054 204. Mintuba Hospital, in to serve a peculiar health need.
You're welcome back from the break. This is still the Situation Room, coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. This afternoon, we are having the infrastructure debate. What infrastructure does to the Ghanaian voter. Does it influence Ghanaian voter in any way? We've seen a series of inaugurations, or a number of inaugurations and commissionings of projects across the country. Just yesterday, we saw the commission of the Bank of Ghana, or inauguration of the Bank of Ghana building the Sprinter's Road flower pot, interchange, and a number of them. Just a while ago, to the Education Minister inaugurated or commissioned over 80 educational projects across the country. So this afternoon, we are talking about infrastructure politics, or does infrastructure development affect Ghanaian voters in any way as we prepare for the December election? Just a short while ago, we spoke to Kojo Oppong, who is the Vice Chair of the NPP Manifesto Committee and the Minister for Works and Housing, Member of Parliament for Fuasiaribi. We'll go on Zoom again and speak to Mr. Richard Anamu, who is the NDC spokesperson on infrastructure and the former Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. So, Anamu, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon, and it's a pleasure talking to you, and best wishes and to all your cherished viewers.
Just a quick one. There are many who have said that, or asked that, do these infrastructure developments and the commission of them influence the Ghanaian voter in any way? Because we saw Selama one under your regime, that was in 2016. Do these influence the Ghanaian voter in any way?
I think they do. They significantly do, because the first thing you need to understand is that most people, a lot of people, even within the last few years, that's 8 years now, people have gone on demonstrations because there's no power, the road network is bad, the water supply is bad. This is what we're talking about here. That's infrastructure. The issue is when you have provided those things and people are okay and they're leaving, then they ask for other things. So yes, I can tell you, straight to your answer, infrastructure is a major determinant. Because it's that infrastructure that determines the standard of living of the people, that they are living in a clean state. How do you get a clean state? I mean, good drainage systems, that rubbish and refuse and all that is collected and disposed of, that the street lights, the roads are very good, the houses are good and all that. That's what determines the state. What we have to also remember is that Ghana is a developing country. When you say developing country, it means most of its infrastructure primarily are underdeveloped. And therefore, the issue of infrastructure as a tool, that people can look up to, is very important. It can be a major determining factor. But the fact that with human beings being of course, once you are provided that people are driving on good roads, they live where the schools are there, the hospitals are there, then they begin to ask for other things that can affect, the nature of the voting as far as politics is concerned. Your presidential candidate, Mr. John Mahama, is moving across the length and breadth of this country, also promising, infrastructure before the election in one of his campaigns across the country. He's been president before. Many people have said that he built quite a number of them. What new is he going to add to already existing ones then? And I go back to the first statement that I made, that we are a developing country. And what Ghana needs to do is to develop its infrastructure as a basis upon which investors can come in. No investor is going to come in and go and set up a factory in, say, Boku or Asangekwa or Sunyani when they have no access to the place, when there's no electrical power, when there's no water, when there's no facility for schools, when he cannot be guaranteed by security because the security people themselves, do not have infrastructure to live on, to operate. So, yes, JM, leader of the NDC, started something. He set up the space for development. He laid out the foundation. These are, just like the way Kwame Nkrumah started after independence. Kwame Nkrumah tried to lay the foundation for us to take off. That's why he went into construct the Akosombo Dam. That's why he went into construct the several schools across the whole country. Those were necessary to lay the foundation. Unfortunately, after he was, unlawfully removed, and what happened next? The infrastructure got up as we sit here today. It's Akosombo. If we switch over Akosombo today, there will be nothing left. Tema Accra, we're still using the motorway that Kwame Nkrumah did several decades ago. So infrastructure is a fundamental tool. And what JM started to do was to reinstate our old infrastructure and then put in the necessary infrastructure that is required to take the country to the next level. That's why, look, Kwame Nkrumah started, the airports were concerned about Kwame Nkrumah. The ports were concerned about Kwame Nkrumah. The major roads were concerned, and that's what we have lived on all these years. JM came and said with his team, so we needed to move our country to the next level. Population had grown from 80 million to almost 30 million people. We could not continue to live under those states. That is why he started expand the airports. We needed to expand it because don't forget that when you create these facilities, they create job opportunities for people to come in. So you don't go about constructing structures that do not really generate revenue, that do not really create job opportunities for people, that you don't construct for facilities that actually is a drain on the economy of the country. Yesterday or I think today, either yesterday or today, our president went and commissioned the Bank of Ghana edifice. Ask yourself, me and you, what is that? Why should we get up and spend so much money on such an infrastructure? One, all the people who will be working in there will pay from the taxpayer. That building, no floor is good, can be rented out to private people. What is the Bank of Ghana? That building itself does not generate revenue. No. How many people are going to pass through that place because it's a high security zone? So we need to put up facilities, infrastructure that would benefit to the people as a whole. And that's why JM started with the hospitals, okay, with the cheap compounds that come to the communities, with the main thing, in and out, the ports, both air and sea. And of course, you and I know very well, and of course the rest of the country, see how much work has been done at the new airport, Terminal 3. We go to Takoradi. Takoradi Port is generating a lot of revenue. The Terminal 3 that also considered Tema Port, the same thing. Sorry. They came in and they even tried to stop that project. Lo and behold, it is that project that is generating a lot of revenue for which they are, I would say, unlawfully diverted to Buankra. If you need to go to Terminal 3 in Tema Port or Terminal 3 at the airport to see the number of people who have been engaged in active business, if all that other facilities, those other hospitals, those cheap compounds that JM has started, if they had gone ahead to complete them, and I tell you, there's a lot more to come.
Mr. Namo,
and that's why there's yes.
Yes, Mr. Namo, you've mentioned a number of things John Mahama has did whilst in power.
Yes.
You also alluded to the fact that indeed infrastructure influences votes in this country.
Sure.
You look at your opponent and what they have done. You talk about
Yes.
the Agenda 111 project. You talk about some of the completion of the e-blocks which your government could not complete. You talk about some new school buildings they put up. Tomorrow, they are inaugurating the Tema Impakadam Railway. If you put all these together, aren't you worried that this government is doing so much which is influencing and affecting the lives of people, hence could turn out into votes for them?
Let me tell you one by one. Is that when you are doing a project, just because you are doing it for political reasons, just because you want to put up something that okay, you think that the voter region is the main zone of the NDC, the strong zone of the NDC, so you've got to construct a rail to that place and use all sorts of funding means to get there. You are a TV station. Move yourself tomorrow and go to the Mpakadam station in the Water Lake and ask yourself, why did this rail line come to that place? Why? A rail line gets to the place, there's nothing. What is it supposed to do? What is the rail line supposed to do? Let's assume that it's supposed to take containers from the port to that place. The containers arrive at the riverside at the Water Lake. I have personally been there to see. The containers have no place to land. There's no equipment there to drop the container. No. There's no parking place or betting place for any crowd on the Water Lake to be able to take the container. No. Absolutely nil. So what is the purpose of doing that? Then let's go to the Bonkra. Bonkra also is somewhere, along the Kumasi Road. You have gone ahead to push money, diverted, deprived GPHA of money, and send that money to that place. Bonkra will not come to life unless there's a rail line from Accra Tema to Bonkra to be able to take the containers. So pumping in that money there, just because you want to please the people of Ashanti, because that's your strong zone, it's a total waste of money. It's causing financial loss to the state. Now, you come to the other project that they're talking all over.
Okay.
You don't just do a project because you want to finish up. No. So these projects, Agenda 111, you started several of them, none of them have been completed. None of them will be completed. Because the ones that you have even started, the hospitals that are there, you have not, because hospital is a necessity of life. So why do you get up just because of political sake? You get up and say that you are building Agenda 111, you got to develop 111 hospitals at the same time when you don't have the means? No. That is that's not what JM is talking about. Okay. That's not what JM will be doing. Okay. So yes, these things are there, they may have, but of course, people have seen. If you are moving, if you're on the Teshi road, you've seen all the abandoned roads along the place. Okay. So these projects will not in any way. We don't expect the voter to look. They should look at it as their political gimmicks intended to draw attention.
All right.
Yes.
Sanamo, I'll say a big thank you for your time. Thank you very much, Richard. Mo is the NDC spokesperson on infrastructure and a former Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. We'll go for a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about election security. Of recent happenings within the political parties, the NPP and the NDC. A press conference was held among the two parties on Tuesday by the NDC, yesterday by the NPP, accusing security couples of being involved in a ploy or an attempt or a plan to rig the elections in the Ashanti. When we come back, we'll speak to a security analyst on the implication of these accusations and counter-accusations.
They are all the same.
Oh, me I fear about to ankasa my margin cement.
Menkasada. I don't want to aba.
Omunyina ya trofo.
Utete parties ni na. Do this is papa and also Dinechi. Papa we.
Medidi Kofi Apa. I'm the leader and founder of the Liberal Party, LPG.
Ono didn't say papa. I be brought this generation, the next generation. Now let me tell you the vision of this man.
Na me adom number be president. Akola bi wo Ghana bia say the ema me ma ewa abochire. Sa ne be yamom akola bi obetwa ne ka. Bosum bia 500 Ghana cedis.
See wakra and there couple 80 years obetwa ne ka 500 Ghana cedis. Hey,
this o maye nan ya bosumi bia na je so obi na 2000 Ghana cedis saa so na me be president omo nya adwuma ifie bi nwotwe eko nkokora na mmewa so obetua omo ka 700 cedis
we bela from 18 years awon adwuma no obetua me ka 700 Ghana cedis no to tua sum kra na say
university so be free
we are school free me I'll vote for number 5
madam I feel 2024 election week meto abane dia ma LPG mami posters ni bi na me muam nyenye campaign
o hwe krata na de to abana be number 5 me na me to so bi ma share so de no e yan so ma to abana mami na to mami a me de ose e yo
Excellent. Be that business owner that stands out and is very productive.
You're so confident. How do you do it?
It starts with Built. Where does your confidence come from? Paperwork made simple. Built takes all the hassle away. Don't be like her. Built is your all-in-one simplified finance platform. It's your home for invoices, payments, your payroll, and so much more.
Oh, wow.
Grow your business today. Sign up now at Built.Africa. Download the Built app now.
You're welcome back, and thank you very much for still staying with us. This is The Situation. We're coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. Just a while ago, we spoke to the Vice Chair of the NPP Manifesto Committee, Kojo Nkrumah, on the NPP's manifesto plan when it comes to infrastructure and the recent inauguration and commission of projects by President Dankwa Akufo-Addo. We also spoke to Mr. Richard, who happens to be a former Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority and the spokesperson for the NDC when it comes to infrastructure. Fred, you had the conversations among the two, you know, and they both admit that they influence votes in one way or the other. But this last minute, something will change?
Sammi, it depends.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends on your situation and what you're facing. I mean, someone can say you have commissioned the road. The road has reduced the burden and the pressure on me. Because of that, I'm going to vote. There's another person on the same road may be angry about the fact that you could do this all this while. How come it took you this long to be able to do it?
Yeah.
Why did you wait, or why are you waiting to this point, a week, 2 or 3 weeks to an election to vote for me? So, complete it and commission so I can use it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't vote for you. So for issues of infrastructure, it depends on individuals, what they face, and how they want to, how these projects come to alleviate some of the pressures on them. In 2016, as you said, there were a lot of commissioning. John Mahama eventually lost the election. It couldn't have been just infrastructure.
There were other factors as well, yeah.
So you can not always say that infrastructure would determine the election. Yes, it has some influence on the election, but does it have a lot of influence? That only voters can tell.
Fred, another troubling issue, and let's obviously that in the short time we're speaking to Colonel Festus Abuaje, who is a security analyst, on a development in the Ashanti region. The two major political parties addressed a press conference this week. NDC on Tuesday, NPP on Wednesday, accusing security bosses or security couples of helping to rig elections in the Ashanti region. On Tuesday, the NDC accused Brigadier General Michael Opoku, who is the commander of the Central Command, you know, that he is helping the NPP or attempting to help the NPP rig the election in the Ashanti region. On Tuesday, the NPP also had a press conference addressed by the national organizer, Henry Nanabuache, saying that former Greater Accra Regional Commander, former Ashanti Regional Commander, former COP retired Kofi Boache is also helping the NDC in the Ashanti region to rig the election in favor of the end. Should we be worried?
This is worrying when you have the two major political parties alleging and counter-alleging of influences and activities of military, security people planning to disrupt the election.
Top security people, if you ask me.
It's worrying because, you see, when you look at from our past elections, we've had concerns about how security persons have involved themselves in elections, brutalized people. You look at Ayawaso West Wagon by-election. Even in 2020, you look at the election in Techiman South and the things which came out of Techiman South. So it's worrying when you hear these two parties alleging that either of them are plotting to do things. But you see, for me, we shouldn't leave it there. People make allegations. We've lived in a country where people throw out all sorts of allegations and we keep quiet and we leave it to go, growing tensions and everything. If you have evidence of someone involving themselves in such an activity, you should go to the police and give the evidence to the police. If you don't give the evidence, the police should invite you
and provide the evidence
for both parties.
Definitely.
So you provide the evidence. Before we go on, the IGP yesterday met stakeholders, outlined measures for election security. He says that his men are going to ensure that there's enough security in every polling station, in every constituency, to protect the peace we are doing. Media houses are going to be protected. They are going to put out a 24-hour number where you could reach him or any of the commissioners or commanders to report any incident which is taking place. These are all good measures being put in place by the police, and we hope that the parties would help the police to ensure peace in this particular election.
Fine. Let's go on Zoom and speak to Colonel Festus Abuaje, retired. He's a security analyst on these troubling developments in the Ashanti region by these accusations. Colonel, if you can hear me, thank you very much for your time. But just a quick one. From where you sit, are you worried about these allegations being made by these two political parties?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Let me start by saying that we are approaching the 2024 elections against very severe trust deficit issues. We have issues that occurred not only in 2019, but also in 2020 when we went for the elections proper. And the fatalities that occurred, the commission that was established, the fatalities that occurred, and the inaction on the part of the state, the government, to investigate and to prosecute if necessary, but ultimately to inform Ghanaians about the steps that it had taken to go into those matters. We've not done any of that. We are living in an electoral system which is fraught with mistrust deficits from the EC to other political actors, as you have elaborated. All the incessant mistakes, recurrent mistakes. At each turn, EC makes mistakes. Sometimes it admits, sometimes it doesn't admit. It apologizes, assures us that it is going to, correct those things and not make mistakes. And yet, the next turn, EC makes mistakes. Currently, we have ballot papers. I don't know whether it's presidential, parliamentary, or both, for two major regions, Bono and Volta, which have to be discarded. Now, the process of destroying these can be subject to considerable, if you like, manipulation. All of these, together with the utterances by other actors, undermine trust in the electoral process. We've not talked about political interference. So ordinarily, if any person or institution makes an allegation, it behoves on the state to investigate the allegations. It is more than 48 hours ago since the NDC alleged specifically that a certain senior officer, Commander Central Command, is storing weapons and ballot papers and is in collusion with a political party to rig the elections in the Ashanti region and elsewhere. It's about 24 hours ago since the NPP rebutted and also advanced its own allegations. The authorities have not spoken. Ministry of Interior hasn't spoken. Ministry of National Security hasn't spoken. The Ghana Armed Forces has not spoken because that senior officer, is under the command of the CDS. The silence itself, or these silences, add to the confusion and the deepening mistrust. Given that there is a history of political interference in our systems, including elections, if the state keeps quiet and the state does not distance itself from the party that it comes from, the ruling government, and act like a constitutionally established body to look into these matters, we're only preparing ourselves for more disaster. And I wish to say that in 2020, when I published that my small book in November of 2020, I said that if those things that were happening during the voter registration continued, there was likely to be disaster. And for the first time in the history of Ghana, we lost 8 lives. It had never happened before. And we're on the cusp of an election where we have not addressed, as I said, these issues. Now you have another senior officer commanding the Django Warfare School, right, who comes out publicly in a church environment to use words that should not be used by a senior officer. Look, if we presuppose that the military is part of the electoral security management system, we're making a great mistake. It's a political ploy to include the military in election security in frontline law enforcement roles under the guise of being in support of the police, and then infiltrate the ranks of the Ghana Armed Forces with persons who don't belong to them, or for that matter, the Ghana Police Service, and use those persons, rogue elements, to commit all manner of atrocities. And then the state says that, I don't know these persons. It's not going to work in our favor. What kind of training have we given? The documents that the EC has published, including the police, the IGP, suggest that all personnel involved in our electoral processes, especially the security management, will be trained. So if we have been trained, the commanding officer of Django Warfare School does not come to say that I will beat whoever. That is not a law enforcement function. Law enforcement does not include the tactics of beating people because they have caused infractions. You see, so no training has taken place. And this officer and the men that he was referring to are going to be involved in election security in the Odan area with a mindset that they are going to beat Ghanaians up. If they call, look, everybody is entitled to human rights or the protection of their human rights. So even if we see persons violating our electoral laws, there are processes, law enforcement processes of how to arrest. And that does not include beating in any form. But unfortunately, and I've already commented on the IGP statement, that not long ago there were protesters constitutionally exercising their right to protest. Forget about whatever violations might have occurred on their part.
Okay.
The police is not required to manhandle them. But the protesters have alleged that they were manhandled. So I have issues whether the police, as we have them now, are going to be in a position to address those who violate the laws. Okay. I mean, to manage who violate the laws. Because for 8 years, they have not been able to investigate who killed the 8 people. And therefore, I'm not sure that come 7th December, or even now, the police does not need an executive order to investigate.
Okay,
once the NDC and NPP have said that they suspect that certain collusions are taking place, The police does not need the president to tell it, to investigate.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
There was a meeting today of the IGP and the representative of the political parties. And yesterday, the national organizer of the NPP, Herina Nabuachi, said that they were going to put this complaint before the IGP. And I'm very sure that today, when they met, he had put this before the IGP. And I'm sure the IGP or any other security head will take particular concerns in respect of this particular matter. Colonel Retired, I'll say a big thank you for your time. Really appreciate your time. Colonel Retired Festus Abuaje, as a security analyst, helping us address issues in respect of what the two political parties, accusations and counter-accusations, the NDC and the NPP, have been leveling against each other as far as elections in the Ashanti region, is concerned. Fred, Colonel asking the IGP to take this matter seriously, and that's what we expect the IGP to do.
Exactly, the IGP has to take action.
Yeah, we expect the IGP to do so. It's been another exciting edition of the Situation Room that came to you live from our studio here in Accra. My name is Sammi Wiafe, and I've been doing this with
Fred Tete Djabanor.
Till we come your way again, may the good Lord be with us all.